Northwest of Atlanta, Georgia is a small community named New Hope. It is nestled between Ackworth to the north and Dallas to the south off of Georgia Highway 92. This quaint rural community is the reflection of the times with its modern roads, homes, and businesses. However, New Hope will forever be known for its past and the tragedy that scarred it, not just once, but twice in just over a century. Hi, this is Todd. I'm currently at New Hope Church Cemetery, which is where one of the battles in the area, Battle of New Hope Church, was fought. Cemetery was here at the time of the battle, obviously not as big. There was a very large and tremendous loss of life here on both sides. The Confederacy actually claimed victory here. So I'm going to walk through. It's very overgrown. However, we're going to walk through and I'll try to point out some interesting headstones along the way, but mainly here to see the military ones that, like I normally do, and honor those who have fallen or fought and sacrificed, no matter which side you may have been on. So stay tuned and let's get on our walk. Here we have Anderson H. Arnold, Company K, 60th Regiment, Georgia Infantry, in Confederate States Army, March 9th, 1832 to January 23rd, 1905. Arnold enlisted on July 9th, 1864. At the Battle of Monocosa River, Maryland, he was wounded in his right side. The bullet hit a rib, his hip, and injured his spine. He had limited use of his right leg for the remainder of his life. Nathan Goswick, Company H, 19th Georgia Infantry, died April 17th, 1862. On July 21st, 1861, Goswick was wounded and hospitalized after the First Battle of Bull Run, called the Battle of First Manassas by Confederate forces. It was the first major battle of the American Civil War. He returned home, disabled, and died at home the following spring. Was most likely the son of Thomas and Irena Gostwicks, husband and wife, born, known not when, died 1864, erected by then son Sam of Mount Vernon, Texas, September 24th, 1905. This portion right here was cleaned out. Must be family members who did it. This doesn't look like it's been too long since it's been cut, maybe a day or two. But you can see the difference in how overgrown everything is. It's just very, like I said, very disappointing. And this is William D., son of Levi and Emily Cooper, born June 17th, 1860, died October 18th, 1891, aged 30 years, 4 months, and a day. You have Mary E., daughter of Levi and Mary Cooper, Emily Cooper. You have Mary E., daughter of Levi and Emily Cooper, born September 15th, 1874, died November 5th, 1891. And this is Henry L., son of Levi and Emmy, born July 22nd, 1880, died December 13th, 1903. Looks like the cleanup crews finally arrived. Our mother, Rachel, wife of L.L. Bowman, born March 13th, 1829, died April 16th, 1881. The church seen here depicts the one rebuilt after the war in 1870, which was hit by lightning, and you can see the smoke stains. In late May of 1864, during General William T. Sherman's Atlanta campaign, New Hope Church became the site of a fierce and bloody battle. On May 25, 1864, Union forces under Sherman clashed with Confederate troops led by General Joseph E. Johnston. The confrontation, known as the Battle of New Hope Church, was part of a series of engagements as Sherman attempted to outflank Johnston's army and move closer to Atlanta. Though tactically a Confederate victory, the battle did little to halt Sherman's advance. The cemetery and the surrounding church grounds were caught in the middle of intense fighting. The battle left thousands of soldiers dead or wounded. The church property, including the cemetery, was used as both a field hospital and a burial site. Some accounts suggest that Confederate and possibly Union soldiers were buried in or near the cemetery, though most of the war dead were later reinterred in formal cemeteries elsewhere, such as the Marietta National and Confederate cemeteries. The land around the cemetery still shows remnants of trenches and earthworks, and the peaceful setting today stands in stark contrast to the violence that once consumed it. So here we have James C. Pickett, Private Company C, 25th Georgia Infantry, Provost Guard, Confederate States Army, September 30th, 1829 to March 8th, 1910. And we have Second Lieutenant Benjamin J. Pickett, 1st Georgia Cavalry, Company D, 1828, died in 1863. Thank you very much for your service and sacrifice, sir. And Private Malachi Pickett, Private, Company A, 9th Battalion, Georgia Cavalry, 1800 to 1886. Henry Russell Parker, Company K, 60th Georgia Volunteer Infantry, 1837 to 1877. That's a very old oak tree. Was more than likely here around the time of the war, or shortly thereafter. You have these burials here with just markers, but there's pebbles over top of them, I guess, to indicate where they're at. John L. Pearson, born January 7th, 1826, died October 15th, 1899. We have Phillips here. This is L.M. Phillips, born December 3rd, 1842, died July 13th, 1891. From the Atlanta Constitution, July 13th, 1891, Dallas, Georgia, July 13th. There was a cold-blooded murder committed here this morning at 6 o'clock. B.F. Matthews shot and killed Manning Phillips, marshal of this place. Mr. Matthews had a case in the city court, and Marshal Phillips, while passing Matthews' restaurant going from the depot to town, asked him to be at the courthouse at a certain hour. Matthews asked Phillips why he didn't make a case against George Cooper for disorderly conduct. Phillips said he didn't see it. Matthews then said he knew of 20 good citizens who told him, Phillips, about it. Phillips denied this. Matthews said, "You are a liar." He then commenced to shoot at Phillips. After he fired twice, Phillips drew his pistol and shot Matthews in the arm, and then turned to run when Matthews shot him twice in the back. Phillips ran up to his home, which is about 50 yards, and told his wife to do the best she could for herself, that he was a dead man, and fell over and breathed his last. Benjamin Franklin Matthews, 1854 to 1902, was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. In 1897, his sentence was commuted to 10 years. In 1898, he was pardoned by then Georgia Governor William Yates Atkinson. James R. McGraw, U.S. Army, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, World War II, Korea, January 10th, 1916 to March 29th, 1995. Thank you much for your service, sir. I just saw this over here. This is for more. This is Dr. W.J. Brown, May 27th, 1859 to October 31st, 1930. You have a couple of crosses over there. Little metal crosses, no headstones. Looks like a family plot. More Browns. Several graves here. This is more. This would be L.L. Brown, born June 1st, 1826, died April 16th, 1908. This plot in here in the woods. If I can, sure I don't get poison ivy on me. Yancey Craig Bibb Jr., Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army, Air Corps, World War II, 1920, 1979. Thank you much for your service, sir. More Pearsons. You see a flag, you kind of have to go look. Roy Bone, 1909 to 1945, died in U.S. Army. Thank you much for your service and sacrifice, sir. Buddy Bone, Georgia, CS-1 U.S. Navy, World War II, June 2nd, 1924 to August 18th, 1968. Thank you much for your service, sir. Marion Eddie Bone, PFC, U.S. Army, January 27th, 1958 to March 11th, 2021. Thank you very much for your service, sir. And Gene Bone, Corporal, U.S. Army, Korea, August 13th, 1932 to September 17th, 2016. Thank you much for your service, sir. This is George R. Ellsbury, Company A, 40th Georgia Infantry, October 17th, 1839 to August 25th, 1923. Thank you much for your service, sir. Robert W. Whitehead, Private, Company C, 36th Alabama Infantry, Confederate States Army, May 26, 1864. And Private James Harvey Murphy, Company K, 40th Georgia Infantry, CSA, 1821 to 1864, beloved husband of Sabrina Denman Murphy. In 1977, unfortunately, there was a plane crash here, not very far from where the cemetery is located, probably no more than a few hundred yards, and it was Flight 242. On April 4th, 1977, Southern Airways Flight 242, traveling from Huntsville, Alabama to Atlanta, Georgia, was involved in a tragic accident that became one of the most infamous crashes in U.S. aviation history. The aircraft, a DC-9, was en route with 85 passengers and 5 crew members on board. About 30 minutes into the flight, the plane encountered severe thunderstorms near New Hope, Georgia, about 10 miles from its destination. The storm caused significant hail damage to both of the plane's engines, causing both to fail, leading to a loss of power. With no engine thrust, the pilots needed to make an emergency landing and struggled to find a suitable place to land. They were forced to attempt a landing on a highway, Georgia Highway 92, near New Hope. The landing was rough, and the plane crashed onto the road, striking several vehicles before coming to rest. Of the 85 passengers on board, 72 survived, but 13 lost their lives, including both the flight crew and several passengers. In addition, the crash caused further casualties on the ground, with 9 people in vehicles being killed in the collision. The crash of Southern Airways Flight 242 is remembered not only for the tragic loss of life, but also for the lessons it taught about flying in severe weather. It prompted changes in aviation procedures regarding weather avoidance and emergency landings, as well as increased awareness of how hail can affect aircraft performance. Today, this memorial stands near the crash site, honoring the lives lost and the survivors of that fateful day. This is for J.D. Harmon, Company D, 34th Alabama Infantry, Roll Tide, Confederate States Army, 1864. And C.C. Cooper, Private, Company A, Georgia, 40th Georgia Regiment. And that's 1934 was when he passed. 1845 is when he was born. More Coopers here. Here that says, in this area are buried 17 unknown Confederate soldiers. Well, that concludes our walk here at New Hope Cemetery. Quite interesting. Again, it's quite overgrown. Very disappointed. I can't say that enough of how it's gotten to where it is. I just don't know if there's a lack of funds or a lack of care. Very important historical place. Not just because of the Civil War implications, but the actual tragedy of Flight 242 that happened here in 1977. I appreciate you being on the walk with me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the videos, and we'll see you on our next walk. Have a blessed one.
Thank you for watching Cemetery Walks. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click those share, like, and notification buttons to stay up to date with my latest videos and posts.